The air in the execution chamber at Huntsville, Texas is sterile, cold, and unnervingly silent. It is a silence heavy with anticipation, protocol, and the ghosts of lives past. On the gurney lies a woman, not a monster of folklore, but a 38-year-old with a steady gaze and an air of calm that seems to defy the very room she is in. This is Karla Faye Tucker on February 3, 1998, moments away from becoming the first woman executed in Texas since the Civil War. To the witnesses behind the glass, she is two people at once. She is the smiling, remorseful, born-again Christian who has spent the last 14 years ministering to fellow inmates, a symbol of redemption whose life has been pleaded for by the Pope and Pat Robertson alike. But she is also the other Karla, the one who existed in a haze of drugs and desperation, a young woman who, on a hot Houston night in 1983, wielded a pickaxe with a terrifying ferocity. The story of Karla Faye Tucker is not simply a tale of crime and punishment. It is a disquieting exploration of human duality, a crucible where the concepts of justice, mercy, and identity are heated until they become indistinguishable. It forces us to confront an unbearable question. When a person who committed an unforgivable act becomes someone entirely new, who is it that we are actually punishing? To understand the woman on the gurney, one must first understand the girl who put her there. Karla's life began without a foundation. Born into a world of chaos, her childhood was a blur of instability. Her mother, a prostitute, introduced her to the adult world far too soon. By the age of 8, she was smoking marijuana. By 10, she was shooting heroin. Life was a frantic, desperate scramble for the next high, a way to numb the pain of a world that had offered her no safety. She found a sense of belonging in the hard-living world of bikers, rock and roll, and an endless supply of narcotics. It was in this world she met Daniel Ryan Garrett, a man as lost and damaged as she was. Together, their lives spiraled into a shared addiction, a vortex of cocaine, heroin, and cheap whiskey. They were ghosts haunting the fringes of society, their days and nights bleeding into one another in a paranoid, drug-fueled haze. Their love story was written in needle tracks and empty bottles, a bond forged not in affection, but in a mutual need to escape reality. It was a path with only one destination, and in the summer of 1983, they were about to arrive. The weekend of June 11, 1983 was not an exception. It was an escalation. For 3 days, Karla and Danny rode a wave of chemical euphoria, barely sleeping, their minds frayed and paranoid. The drugs had burned through their money, and the gnawing craving for more was becoming an obsession. A plan, clumsy and born of desperation, began to form in the fog of their minds. They would break into the apartment of a casual acquaintance, Jerry Lynn Dean, and steal the parts from his prized Harley-Davidson motorcycle. In their distorted reality, it was a simple transaction. Parts for cash, cash for more drugs. The world outside their high had ceased to exist. On that moonless Houston night, they approached Dean's apartment. The air was thick and humid, amplifying the sound of their own ragged breathing. The silence of the complex was a stark contrast to the storm raging in their veins. Danny jimmied the lock, and the soft click of the door opening was like a gunshot in the night. They slipped inside, moving like predators in the dark, their eyes adjusting to the dim light. They expected an empty apartment, an easy score, but as their eyes scanned the room, they fell upon a shape lying on the bed. It was Jerry Dean. He wasn't gone. He was asleep. For a moment, the world stood still. The plan was shattered. They were no longer burglars. They were intruders, cornered with a sleeping witness. The paranoia, which had been simmering for days, now boiled over into a primal, terrifying fear. Danny grabbed a nearby hammer. Karla saw a 3-foot pickaxe propped against a wall, a relic from a construction job. The air crackled with unspoken violence, a decision made not with logic but with the frantic, twisted instinct of cornered animals. The night was no longer about a motorcycle, it was about to be about survival. The attack was a frenzy, a maelstrom of drug-fueled rage that obliterated reason. Danny was the first to strike, bringing the hammer down on the sleeping form of Jerry Dean. The room exploded into a scene of primal horror, but the nightmare was only beginning. As Karla moved through the apartment, her heart pounding in sync with the violent acts, she heard a sound, a faint gurgling, a plea for help. She followed it to a closet and pulled back the clothes to find a woman hiding in terror. It was Deborah Thornton, a woman who had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. In a later confession, Karla would describe what happened next with a chilling detachment that horrified the nation. She said the woman begged for her life, but the drugs had created a monster. Karla grabbed the pickaxe. She would later testify, in a quote that would seal her fate, that with every swing, she felt a wave of exhilarating, unholy pleasure. It was a release, a violent exorcism of all the pain and rage that had been festering inside her for a lifetime. The violence was surreal, a gruesome dance of death that left the apartment drenched in silence and blood. When it was over, Karla and Danny were no longer just addicts. They were murderers. They left the apartment as quietly as they had entered, the pickaxe still in Karla's hand, the thrill of the crime already being replaced by the cold, creeping horror of what they had done. A horror that could only be silenced by the very drugs that had caused it. Karla Faye Tucker was arrested and, based on her own chilling testimony, sentenced to death. On death row, something happened that no one, least of all Karla herself, could have predicted. Stripped of drugs and facing the ultimate consequence, she found God. Over 14 years, the woman who took pleasure in murder transformed into a beacon of hope and faith within the prison walls. She was articulate, deeply remorseful, and by all accounts, a genuinely changed person. Her case became an international cause célèbre, creating a deep and painful moral dilemma. Her supporters, including figures from opposite ends of the political spectrum, argued that to execute this new woman would be to deny the very possibility of redemption. They pleaded with then-Governor George W. Bush, asking, "What is the purpose of capital punishment if not to punish the person who committed the crime? If that person no longer exists, is the execution simply an act of vengeance?" Conversely, the families of the victims and proponents of the death penalty argued that a change of heart, no matter how sincere, could not erase the brutal act she committed. Richard Thornton, Deborah's husband, became the face of their argument, stating that he wanted her to face the same fate she had delivered to his wife. This is the ultimate call to action presented by Karla's story. It forces you, the observer, to take a side in an impossible debate. Do you stand for retributive justice, an eye for an eye, believing that the gravity of the act must be met with the ultimate price? Or do you stand for restorative justice, believing in the capacity for human change and the power of mercy, even for those who have committed the most heinous of sins? Back in the Huntsville execution chamber, the final act plays out. Karla Faye Tucker turns her head to the witness windows. She apologizes to the families of her victims, her voice clear and unwavering. "I hope God will give you peace with this," she says. Then, looking towards her own family, she smiles and says, "I love you all very much. I will see you all when you get there." As the lethal cocktail of drugs begins to flow into her veins, she hums a hymn. Her body goes still. The duality of her existence is finally resolved in the stillness of death. The questions her life and death posed, however, remain. Was justice truly served? Did the state of Texas execute the monster of 1983 or the redeemed woman of 1998? The story of Karla Faye Tucker does not offer easy answers. It leaves behind a haunting echo, a permanent fixture in the debate over capital punishment. It serves as a stark and eternal reminder that the lines between good and evil, sinner and saint, and justice and vengeance can be terrifyingly and perhaps tragically blurred. Her legacy is not in the crime or the punishment, but in the uncomfortable and enduring question of who we are, who we can become, and whether it's ever possible to truly escape the ghosts of our past. The story of Karla Faye Tucker leaves us with one haunting question. Can redemption truly erase the past? If this story gripped you, don't let it fade into silence. Like this video to support more untold dark stories. Comment below. Was justice really served, or was it vengeance? Subscribe to The Dark Silent for more real stories that challenge your beliefs, blur the lines between right and wrong, and reveal the chilling truths hidden in the shadows. Because in the end, Silence speaks louder than words.